when you're in the habit of demeaning yourself, when you're in the habit of listening to the voice for fear, it seems as though the call to witness to the truth in you and your brother is something hard to do, something scary. You have the feeling that doing so could only be interpreted to be anger or emotion, simply because you're not used to expressing it. And therefore it's not easy for you to do. And that seems to justify keeping your lip zipped further, because heaven forbid that you would express emotion. That's obviously an unenlightened ego dynamic. You know what? If you take a gun and you point it at your head and you pull the trigger, the unyielding truth that life is eternal will confront you, whether you like it or not. If you thought that by doing that you were going to escape the experience of being conscious and the necessity of learning what you still don't know, you're going to find that the truth unyieldingly is your experience, and that you're still conscious and you're still faced with learning the things you haven't learned yet, because truth and integrity are unyielding. They don't blow in the wind. You don't die a little bit. Integrity and truth are not wishy-washy, you know. You sort of have a swoon of life. Life sort of swoons, and it's not quite so much life, and then it comes back. You know, life doesn't become more or less life. You see? Truth and integrity are unyielding. If people want to argue with me, they can argue till they're blue in the face, because the truth is the truth, and I will state it. And it's not the opening remark of a negotiation. You see?
So I can give myself permission to just simply let go and trust what I know is true, or what I feel is true, and just simply say it. Even though the heat of the moment could be emotional, or potentially emotional, because of the potential for conflict that could escalate. Blah, blah, blah. All these things run through my mind when that moment arises, when it's time to say.
You've got to remember that your reason for speaking up is to express integrity on your behalf and on behalf of the other one involved. If you forget that that's the reason, then speaking up becomes nothing more than a defense. And defense is the first part of engagement, Cold War. Right? If you remember why you're doing it, that you're doing it to honor the integrity of you and the integrity of your brother, that the circumstance or the situation is fuzzying up and making indistinct, then it will not be the first act of war. And even if the response is one of defense, if you don't forget why you've done it, and you persist with the goal of bringing out the integrity of both of you, and that it's just the event or the behavior that needs to be changed, then you will provide proof to your brother that your motive is love and that he is safe and that he can look at changing behavior that wasn't working without ending up one down or on the bottom of the barrel or guilty. When I began today talking about that the answer to getting out of the boxes you're all caught in is love, and I talked about the fact that making a decision for that will cause you to have to become consistent so that you don't present a presence to others that bounces back and forth between safe and dangerous. I meant it. And one of the fundamental aspects of loving your brother involves not being wishy-washy anymore within yourself, and not blowing with the current or the popular vote, if you will, or what everybody says, when you know what everybody says isn't true. Integrity finds expression in a commitment to something. Not being vague, indistinct. You see? So yes, there's going to be no value whatsoever to begin to be involved with your brother more than you ever have before, if in the involvement you don't bring a devotion to that which will heal. If your motive isn't to honor the best in you, that which is divine in you, together with the best or the divinity of your brother, then your involvement will be nothing other than conflict. Nothing other than a battle of the will or wills. And you might as well go ahead and shoot yourself. At least you'd learn one thing. Life is unyielding. You would learn that. And that would be humbling.
Thank you, Raj.
You're welcome. How much do you love your brother? How much are you willing to love your brother? Are you willing to stand with him on behalf of his integrity in the face of opposition, in the face of potential reaction, potential retaliation? Or are you going to be vague? I'll think about it. I've got to check in with my guide. I need to sit with this for a while. And the opportunity passes you by. The call, unanswered, passes you by. Oh, nobody wants to interfere? What you're saying is, I don't want to be the presence of truth and integrity and make a difference. I don't want anybody to be able to look at me and say, I was responsible for a change occurring. Because if some of the people think that the change that occurred wasn't good, then I'm going to get hell. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be privately full of integrity. I'm going to see to it that my thinking is full of love and full of integrity. Nobody will ever know it but me and God. And you know the saying, one with God is a majority. Challenge that inclination in you. You know what is going to be a sign in the world that change is occurring? You're going to see brother stand up for brother. And you're going to see sister standing up for sister, standing firmly with sister and brother in support of the innate integrity that they have that needs to be embodied, voiced in the world, acknowledged out loud. Which means that if your brother or sister is in the lion's den, you're going to walk in there with them so that you can walk out together. Because you care. Am I getting through?
Yeah.
Being intimate is not something you can do from a distance. Being intimate isn't something that can occur remotely. There's no such thing as virtual intimacy. And love is intimate. And if your brother is hurting and healing is needed, you walk into the hurting place with them. And you voice integrity about yourself and them. And you voice truth about yourself and them. And you walk out of the hurt together. And you don't say, well, it would be a hard thing to find a way to do this reasonably. What, there's some kind of rules? There's some kind of right way or wrong way or appropriate way or socially accepted way to witness for each other? well, I'm pretty far along my spiritual path. There must be a way that's not so hard. You know that there's no more spiritual way to save your brother from being run over by an oncoming truck than to do something real simple. You grab his arm and pull him out of the way. You witness for life that way. You didn't have to talk to your guide about it. You didn't have to meditate first. You didn't have to get in the right place. You care about your brother enough to witness for what is true, and you do whatever you have to do to embody it, so that a camera could record the action and the event, not some sort of invisible metaphysical mumbo jumbo that is going to miraculously handle things. Am I making sense? Don't leave your brother or your sister hanging out to dry because it's going to be too much work to become involved, or because you don't want to become a target. You don't want to be a clear enough statement in the world of the fact that there is truth and there is integrity and it isn't wishy-washy and it is unyielding. Be willing to be the embodiment of it in deeds. When you don't speak up, not just you, but all of you, when you don't speak up, you're saying yes to the absence of integrity being embodied. And you want to know something? That is demoralizing. And the more people who don't speak up, the more on your planet will be demoralized. You are teaching something by your silence. And you are contributing to a state on your planet, a state of being on your planet, where nobody dares to speak up. And love disappears. And the healing that is the natural outcome of love disappears. And you find yourself pushed down so far in demoralization that the idea that there is a God is inconceivable to you, and the idea that there is divinity associated with you becomes unreasonable and unthinkable and unrememberable. And your definition of yourself becomes worse and worse and worse. You are your brother's keeper. You will not get into the kingdom of heaven by yourself. Because separateness and isolation and independence is the very thing that is keeping you from experiencing your birthright and the kingdom of heaven right now. the only way you're going to get out of the human condition, the ongoing conflict, the ongoing tension, the ever-present call for survival techniques, is to stop behaving in a way that causes other people to feel they need to be defended against you in order to survive, and become an agent for change by letting that shield down and embodying love, by choosing to find every way you can to make a winner out of everyone. By witnessing for the excellence in everyone and inspiring the feeling of safety so that they might let in the love and find themselves filled with love that they can pass on to others. It's really simple. There is no complex spiritual or metaphysical concept or theory to it. If you want to begin to feel safer, be someone safer to be around. And do it by speaking up on the behalf of the integrity of your neighbor or your friend or your brother or your sister who is ignorant of his integrity and is acting out of fear because of the loss of his experience of his integrity. His behavior calls for someone to say no. But at the same time that no is being said to the behavior, the necessity is to illuminate the excellence in him, to find a way to let him know that he doesn't need to be afraid with you. And you know what? That might not be easy. It might not be easy, but that's no reason not to engage in it. Things are not going to get better until you start engaging in it. Well, after today, how many of you do want to believe that there is a God? And how many of you do want to believe that you're not the author of your life and God is? And how many of you want to nurture a conscious relationship with God if it's going to mean all this work? It's a serious question. Take a look at it. And then ask yourself what the alternative is. It's more of the same. Nothing new. And ultimately, the misery that it moves you into will bring you to a point where you find out that no matter how miserable you've insisted on becoming, life is unyielding. You can't get out of it. It's like the oak tree. And you're always fully conscious. Once you realize there's no out, there's no escape, then you'll say, then the only way things are going to change is if I start doing something new. And the only new thing there is for me to do is to love, because that's the one thing I haven't been doing. The one thing I haven't been doing is lowering my shield and caring about somebody else instead of protecting myself. I promise you, that's the only thing you're not doing. And you're convinced that you have no choice. You've got to be defensive, or you'll have no peace. You know, is anything registering? You won't have any peace if you don't do it? You don't have any peace as it is. And you are tense, and you are at ill at ease, and your body reports it back to you, and you don't pay any attention to it. And you abuse your body by continuing to tell it to report back to you pain, conflict, dissonance, dis-ease. Okay, dying doesn't wake you up instantaneously. Even the realization that you can't die once you've thought you had pulled the trigger and you know you should be dead and you're not, that obviously isn't sufficient. But I'm telling you something. You all have had enough deaths to know, even though you don't want to acknowledge it, that what I'm telling you is the truth. What I am telling you that you are going to have to do sooner or later, but which I am inviting you to do rather than commanding you to do, is to stop repeating this habit of uninvolvement. I can't put it any more simply than that. It will change the world into the kingdom of heaven by revealing that what you thought the world was not what it was, that it always has been the kingdom of heaven. And you always have been the beloved expression of God. And it's your birthright to be experiencing that rather than the awful misery that you're experiencing instead. No matter how good it is, it's still awful by comparison with what it's your birthright to be experiencing. And so I invite you to stop being uninvolved. I'm going to end there because at the moment, all of you are pretty darn clear. And I don't want any other subjects to come up to take the place of the clarity. I want it to rest with you, abide with you. Paul feels as though when I speak like this, it could sound like I am scolding. But what I'm doing is telling you the good news. And I hope that is clear to you. I am emphatic about it because it's true and it's so simple. And there's just no reason for any of you to continue for any length of time suffering just because there's one thing you're not doing. I love you.